she's like, I just want you to know that you're such a strong manifester that I want you to realize, was there a moment where you actually thought you wanted to break up with them before they actually cheated on you? And I was like, I think I did. She's like, yeah, you were kind of creating that. So it wasn't, it was actually you the whole time who was like trying to get out of the relationship. And I remember thinking like, oh, okay, well, I better use this manifesting for good use, not just for freaking breaking up with boyfriends.
Yes, exactly.
She'd be like, look, I don't like you.
Hi folks, my name is Brisa Areli Munoz, and I'm the Director of Artistic Innovation and Emergent Magic at Musical Theater Factory, and I'm joined here with one of our artists, Germono Toussaint, and Brandon Powers, who's our Artistic Innovation Lead. And as we've done before, we often take a sector that we're curious to merge with musical theater, and we are looking at the intersection of musical storytelling and technology today. And we're really excited to invite you, Germono, to be in conversation with us about your work and this project that we've been working on with you for the past few years.
I'm excited to be here.
Yes, likewise. We were talking earlier that actually the history goes longer for us together than even this project. When was the first time that you interacted with MTF?
I believe it was 2019.
Yeah.
At the... what was the name of that?
Overnight Sensations.
Overnight Sensations.
I love that.
So there were many musicals that were created. I think they were supposed to be 5 minutes, and I think we got 3 days.
Yes, you got about a weekend long to put together new musicals with a group of like a small ensemble, all randomly assembled in a short period of time.
You were there too, yeah?
I
you
produced
were running
the event.
it. You were producing it.
He was definitely there.
Sorry, I have to acknowledge that Brandon has been here longer than I have, so oftentimes I'm getting clued in.
It was
on
a
the history.
Sydney and Brandon special. It was like, oh yeah, here we go. Let's do something huge and ambitious. But it was very fun, and we loved working with Germono there.
I love it. And then I got a chance to work with Germono because Brandon introduced me to Germono when I understood that Germono was interested in working with technology. Mm-hmm. And I'd love to center around this project that we've been collaborating on for the past few years, The Last Gatekeeper. Let's first start a little bit by learning a little bit about you as an artist. Who are you first? What are the ways that you make? And then maybe share with us a little bit about how The Last Gatekeeper came to be at its inception.
Who am I? That's the big question. Mm-hmm. I guess that's the question that I have been asking myself all my life. Is the reason that I write is to figure out who I am. And I think by creating, I'm uncovering things, nuggets, piecing things together, finding synergy, remembering who I am, and then also evolving. So I am a composer. I'm a playwright. I'm an arranger, though I've retired. I'm done with arranging. I was a music director, so I'm a musician. Yeah. I guess theater maker. I guess I could say theater maker. I am a baby spiritualist. Mm-hmm. I'm a creative.
Before we get to Last Gatekeeper, Germono and I actually have been collaborating on a concert of his songs that he's about to do in a couple of weeks, which will have already happened by the time that you see this. So I got a chance to learn a little bit about your life, and I was really moved by the ways in which you came to music at a very, very early age. I think I remember you talking about your family singing in 3-part harmony to you in your crib. Did you say it was your crib?
It was my crib, 3 or 4-part harmony, depending on what mood they were in, what genre they were singing. So I think the story is that it was doo-wop. Yeah. So I would be in the crib and they would just start singing some song in 4-part harmony, and I believe that's where my ear was trained. Yeah. Because I just understood music when I actually started studying it. Yeah. Which was at 4 years old. Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah. I'm also thinking about the moment when you first started playing piano and the tricks that you would play on your teacher. Yeah. I want you to say that.
Okay. So it took me forever to learn how to read music because I had a really, really strong ear. I didn't know what that meant at the time, But my piano teacher, I had a few, but my mom landed on Linda Martin, and I think she's going to watch this. She's still around. She played blues, R&B, jazz, all of that, but she, could read music.
Yeah.
So she was my first piano teacher, and she had no idea what I could or couldn't do. I was 4 years old. So she would play popular music, like I Believe the Children Are Our Future,
Yeah.
What's Love Got to Do with It, things that would interest me, but she would have the sheet music.
Yeah.
And I would say, well, can you play it first? And she would play it, and then I would just watch her hands. And then she would put the sheet music in front of me, and then I would just, from memory, play what she played and pretend to be reading the sheet music. It took her like a year to figure out what I was doing.
Totally.
Because she took the sheet music away. She's like, well, no, she put something in front of me.
Yeah.
And she's like, I'm not going to play this. You read this. And I'm like, she's like, you've been faking this whole time. So it took me forever because also it was not a natural thing. Like sight singing, sight reading just did not come naturally to me.
Sure.
So, and I don't know what.
And wait, how old were you?
I started when I was 4.
Wow.
So, I mean, I should be a little lighter on myself because
yes, yeah.
But it's for years I still struggled with it. But yeah, my ear was my strongest gift, and that's what caused me to be able to write.
Yeah.
I started writing for choruses
Yeah.
and harmonies and putting those together, and
Totally.
went from there.
And that's cool because it's almost like the inverse of, I feel like, so many other artists, right? You'd be like, oh, I can read the music, but the idea of memorizing where my fingers are supposed to go, that's usually think that would come later. So
I know.
It's fun. It's backwards almost,
I
but
know.
it's great.
Well, when I started teaching chords, it was just so easy to me. I'm like, well, you just skip every other note, and wherever you start, you have a chord. Like you're building harmonies by skipping. Like I've showed them where the black keys are,
Totally.
where the white keys are, and it's sort of like this very simple puzzle.
Yeah.
And if you can memorize where the notes are or what the keys are, then if you know the formula, you can create F major, F minor, C major, B flat major, 7, whatever.
As we tee up The Last Gatekeeper, all I remember was I got introduced to you because of Brandon, actually. It was Brandon who came to me and was like, we've got this artist who's been around and they're curious and playing around with technology. Brandon, before we talk about this project specifically, can you tell us just a little bit about the role that you play here, the moment that an artist says that they're curious and exploring technology?
Sure, yeah. So in my role, I'm here to support an artist in their discovery and education and exploration of all things innovation and pushing the field forward. And that tends to really be focused in on technology. And when we're talking about technology here at MTF, we've kind of really started by focusing on immersive tech.
Yeah.
We think about XR, extended reality, so virtual reality, augmented reality, things like that, and all the different tools that come around them. And so we love to find ways to just introduce that tech to artists at the very beginning. If they have, they're curious but aren't really sure what they want to do, or in the case of Germono, they maybe already have an idea.
Yeah.
And then I come into play to be able to say, like, I'm in some ways like your technology dramaturg, and we can think about what tool is right for your exploration, and then how can I, through my experiences, connect us to the right other creative technologists and artists so that we can build a team around you to make it happen, which is then ultimately what we ended up doing with Last Gatekeeper.
Incredible. Yeah, so we're painting the picture here. Overnight sensations, got introduced to MTF. You had a 5-minute excerpt of a musical you shared, and then got in conversation with Brandon about this piece, The Last Gatekeeper. So let's talk a little bit about that. What is the inception of the piece?
Well, if I can go back a little further, my first exposure to this technology, immersive technology, was at Three-Legged Dog. And it was, I believe the play was called Fifth Man. It was by James Scruggs, who was one of my mentors. And I was just blown away because it was, this, I think it was Burroughs, his last name is Burroughs. But anyway, it was an actor, doing a monologue, and all of a sudden his wife floats across the stage. But I'm like, how's she floating across the stage? I didn't see a scrim.
Yeah.
I'm like, how is this happening? It was the first time I'd ever seen anything like that. 3-dimensional woman, just sort of like floating across. And I don't know what about that drew me, but I was like, I want to do that. I want whatever this is, I want some of this in my work. And I'm making connections as I say that, which we'll get to in a minute.
Yeah.
But that was my first introduction to it, and so I started to explore and speak to some of the folks at Three-Legged Dog. Carlos, who you met, was there at the time, and it opened up a whole world. This was a whole industry that I had no idea even existed.
Yeah.
And I knew I had a lot to learn, which is very intimidating, coming from like a theater maker, music maker world.
Totally.
But that was my introduction. So when I joined the Fire This Time Festival, I'm one of the founding playwrights of the Fire This Time Festival. I think it's 13 years, 14. I don't know. It's been around for a while.
Yeah.
But my first play was called The Anointed, and it was dealing with how the Black church deals with sexuality. And I interviewed prominent same-gender loving, queer, Black spiritual leaders or religious leaders. And my director at the time was John Martin Green, my first director. And he said, you should read books by Malidoma Somé. And I didn't really take it seriously. So years later, I read all of Malidoma's books. And Malidoma talks about the concept of the gatekeeper being spirit workers in his village in Burkina Faso, who their job was to manage the portals between the physical and spiritual realm. And this was a very serious, important role in the community.
Yeah.
And not only did they manage these portals, but they helped people align with their purpose on this earth.
Their truest selves, their highest selves. Yeah.
And to balance themselves, balance individuals energetically and balance the community that they serve.
Yeah.
But I noticed, and there's been much work written about other gatekeepers throughout history who have done this, especially in the Black community. We have the Audre Lordes, the James Baldwins, the Bayard Rustins, and these are what I consider gatekeepers. They're community leaders. They are transforming people. They are transforming their communities, revolutionaries, So I thought, it actually came to me one day, this image of a Black queer superhero who is a gatekeeper, who has all of these supernatural powers that is overthrowing, or is the prophecy is that he will overthrow a totalitarian government.
Yeah.
This was way before any of the stuff that is happening now. It was happening.
Yeah.
And literally everything that is happening now is in this musical.
Yep.
Which is, I think it was 8 or 9 years ago that I started writing it. But
it's been prophetic.
Yeah, it is speaking to how all of us who feel that we are energetically called as such have to embrace our own power, which means we have to dismantle all of the isms and false narratives and titles that have been placed on us that don't align with the reality of who we really are, and break free from those in order to be ourselves, which is where our true power lies. And that's the journey of Soku, the main character. It's a hero's journey and a shaman's journey all at once. Yeah. Because the shaman's journey and the hero's journey usually starts with trauma. Yeah. Which trauma breaks you out of the falsehood.
Yeah. I think one of the reasons why I was so captivated when Brandon came and said Germono's curious and doing some work with technology on The Last Gatekeeper was because of my fascination and curiosity around spiritual technologies. And so I was once I heard this story, and thinking about MTF, and the types of works that we support. We're interested in the intersection of healing, justice, and radical imagination.
Yeah.
And so in some ways, this was such a perfect fit, and so I want to sort of share something that I've sort of realized on the spiritual technology front first, and then I'd love to hear from Brandon on the sort of technology side of what do we do and how do we take a story like this and start to begin exploring what the function of technology can play, right? So a mentor of ours, actually a shared mentor of ours, made a comment one time when he was reflecting on the work I was doing as an arts leader and as a director, particularly through the lens of musical storytelling. And his name is David. And David said, "Oh, how interesting. What you're doing is quantum physics."
That sounds just
And I said, "What do you mean? What are you talking about?" He's like, "Well, in quantum physics, you have the wave and you have the particle. So the particle is the set, the costumes, the actors, the people, the physical things on stage. And the wave is that kind of like alignment with spirit that allows everyone to be in the sort of same frequency to all decide to sing all at the same time." And I found that fascinating and riveting. All of a sudden, I'm like, oh my God, I'm a quantum physicist. And so, when Brandon approached and said, we need to work on this project, I was like, okay, cool. Let's understand what this means. So I'm curious, through your lens, Brandon, what did you learn once you kind of received this project, The Last Gatekeeper, and how did we begin the process of exploration?
Yeah, it started when, Germono approached us with this piece. And, as we're talking about, it just felt like such a perfect fit for the types of work we're interested in exploring beyond even just the tech, right? Just from a thematic standpoint. And so to see that marriage was really amazing. And to also try to understand just like how we can support a work in this moment of curiosity, right? Which I think really was where you were. And, coming to me and saying, hey, I have this vision of a hologram, right? And that, that's what he talked about. He said, I see a hologram, kind of similar to what you're talking about with, James Scruggs' work. And it's like, I really think that that's the right vessel for storytelling in this piece. Yeah. It instantly made a ton of sense to me because of this idea of an ancestor coming through a portal, kind of crossing between worlds. I'm like, oh yeah, that's literally, that's literally immersive tech. Like, that is what we want to do, right? And so that marriage of like narrative dramaturgy and technological dramaturgy, it was like, aha, like that's what we're really trying to do here. Yeah. So, it wasn't like, oh, this should happen because it's cool. Yeah. It should happen because it's the only way to actually bring this ancestor into our world in a way that actually reflects what you're going for, right? So that felt like that was our mission. And because we were early in the exploration process, through our conversations, it became this workshop or kind of research and development exploration where we are now trying to understand how do we make a hologram. Like and we had to even take a step back from that and go, what does that even mean? Yeah. Right? What does that word actually mean? And so we start by saying, hey, what are different types of technologies that might reflect this idea of a hologram, right? We shared a lot of different like visual materials and examples of things you were inspired by. Yeah. I shared a bunch of technological examples of like, oh, here's some different technologies or examples of other shows that have employed this in different ways. Yeah. What feels closest to what you're going for. What also makes sense as like the metaphor. That's something big for me when we're thinking about immersive tech, is like, how is the technology actually like the right metaphor for the story we're telling? And so we wanted to make that decision through this workshop, right? That's kind of what ended up happening. It was like, oh, we don't know. Let's do the exploration to decide what we know. Totally. Exactly. And that's something that I'm, very passionate about what we do here at MTF, because as an artist working in this space and working in this intersection, there's very, very few institutions that are letting folks not know what they want and receive the resources for it.
Totally.
And so that's kind of why we are doing it. It's just like, hey, I want this and no one else is doing it. Let's do it. So this was an amazing opportunity to do it for Last Gatekeeper.
Yeah.
And so then it broke down to this exploration of two main technologies: volumetric capture and motion capture.
Yeah.
And so those are two different ways of recording performances. Motion capture is something that a lot of people are already very familiar with. When you think about Marvel movies, Lord of the Rings, right? It's a person covered in usually in a big suit with a bunch of dots on them. And that technology is recording their skeleton, essentially, right? And then they apply some sort of 3D material, or like avatar, as a lot of people know, to that skeletal rig. And now there's this new figure in your video game, movie, digital environment, whatever.
Yeah.
And then volumetric capture is like the inverse of that, right? So in volumetric, you're in a space, you're recording in a space with a bunch of cameras all around you, and it creates a volume, like a multi-dimensional video file of that actor's actual likeness, right? So the big difference here is it the actual actor's likeness, or is it a kind of avatar 3D generated likeness? And then there's pros and cons to both, and we weren't sure what made the most sense. So this research was, let's try both and see what we like, and then even go as far as to build a set and put it on stage, which is amazing.
Yeah.
And so we went ahead and did that.
Yeah.
Hello, hello, hello. This is Ardai Knox, and I am co-executive director of Musical Theater Factory, specifically the director of decolonization and sustainability. And I am coming at you to remind you to subscribe to The Vibe. The Vibe is to get all of the information you could possibly desire about the Musical Theater Factory community. We let you know what our artists are doing in the world. We let you know what they're doing in our home, in our community base, and it has lots of tips and tricks and links to help you further your career, whether you're a director, an actor, a writer, or just an audience member who wants to stay plugged in. If you want to be tapped into all things amazing in New York, especially within MTF, subscribe to The Vibe.
What was it like being in that experience of testing out the technology and seeing what fit?
It was surreal. It's still sort of surreal thinking about it now that it actually happened. I put that way far down in my timeline of how this thing was going to develop.
Yeah.
Get the story right, get the music right, and then later on down the line, we'll start experimenting with the tech. But sounds like a commercial. Thanks to MTF. Thanks to MTF.
We're not mad at it, Germono.
Yeah. I mean, but seriously, thanks to MTF, I have actual assets that I can do what I want with when I figure out how to do that.
Yeah.
But we created the avatar, volumetric, and motion capture, which I now know what that means. It was just so cool, and it's in the scissor reel, which I'm gonna hopefully someone will see it at some point. Yeah. So I knew then, and I'm still learning, but I knew then I was like, there's a lot for me to learn.
Yeah.
There's a lot of possibilities. There's a lot of things to consider when mounting this, as far as like the lighting and like the angles and like what material this is going to be projected onto, and are there going to be other people on stage, and how do they interact with this hologram? So it's a huge deal, and I don't think I can explain it fully how big a deal it is to have those assets.
Yeah.
And
Totally.
to have experimented with something that I thought was going to happen 10 years from now.
Yeah. Part of me thinks about, the MTF process and the role that so many of our staff members play as dramaturgs. I think I said this in a previous episode, but oftentimes I feel like if a show is up on stage and it doesn't feel strong, 99% of the time it's because there wasn't enough dramaturgical consideration. Mm-hmm. And I feel like, Brandon, you've been such a beautiful bridge for artists who are like, I have this curiosity, I have this imagining, but how do I actually make this possible? And I've always witnessed you to be such a great interrogator of like, wait, when do we need to zoom out, even further than where we are and solve that question first before we can actually understand which piece of technology we use? I'm curious, just to hear a little bit more about your role as the bridge,
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I think it really is so that we can ultimately serve the artist the best, right? Because if we jump ahead and someone's like, oh, it's a VR play, or like it's a hologram. I think in another instance, someone could be, I could have, certainly, or someone else in my position going to be like, okay, this is exactly how it's going to look. It's going to be motion capture, and that's the person who I can call right now, and this is how we're going to do it. But that's like a very specific choice, like emotionally, aesthetically, etc., right? And so I think that there's that really important moment where we really interrogate it, just in the same way that a writer is interrogating every note and every word in the page, right? And we understand what that choice means. And I always really want to have a zoom back, because we need to make this decision now so that then all the rest of the chips can continue to fall in the way that we want them to, right? And I think a big part of what was great about this process is we got to go from like that early exploration, then learn about these different tools, play with it in real time with actors, and record assets, and then take it even the step further of putting it on the stage. We built this amazing like Pepper's Ghost Chamber. So it's really cool how we were merging like extremely bleeding edge tech and like the OG like magical tech, right?
Tell us the story of Pepper's Ghost.
So Pepper's Ghost is this classic theatrical stage technique where which is very well still employed by lots of people, especially Disney World. So you've seen a lot of it, where you have essentially like two panes of glass with some sort of projection that's coming at it from multiple angles, and so that plus a little bit of great fog and haze makes it look like there is a fully volumetric being there. And our designer collaborator Carlos had this like really great idea of like how to actually then bring that into reality, and so we were able to stage it, record it, and figure out how it is. And so we both bridged in the sense of the translation, which I can feel like I talk about all the time, which is like, okay, you say hologram, what do you actually mean by that? Like, let's break it down. And like, how can I then also translate from you to all the other team members? We had to bring, at least 5 other people, into the project. And how can I amplify your voice, get you more prepared for those cross disciplinary conversations, but then also kind of step in as this translator and say, oh, this is what really matters to him, like this is what he actually means when he says this word, right? Or it's like, oh, it's not quite, things like we should talk about, like, what are some of those things you noticed in volumetric versus motion capture aesthetically that were interesting one way or another for you as we were kind of working on those recordings, because I feel like so much came up there.
Well, there were things that I saw that I wanted to see if it could happen on stage. I saw young Soku speaking to this ancestor spirit, and the ancestor spirit feeling as though it were 3-dimensional, but also translucent in a way. But, and I don't think this is something we have been in discussion about, but depending on how it's projected, this young Soku being able to walk around the stage while this projection is still being projected as though it's a real person. But the hologram being able to morph and grow and change into things as it's talking. So in the scene that we recorded, the hologram has this monologue about the history of the world being colonized and the role of religion, and how this lie has been put on the people, like the gatekeepers. And as he's telling the story, I thought it would be cool if when he gets angry, he grows and fills the stage, and then when he needs to be sensitive and intimate with Soku, he shrinks and then maybe he turns into a Bible or shows a Bible, or he as he's telling the story, he's self-animating and showing him, because as a kid, like visually what the history of this is and what this child's future will be. So
yeah. And then there was lots of conversations that had to have then amongst the team of like, okay, we want the character to get larger, but I remember there was this moment where it's like, oh, is the character literally getting larger, or are we as the audience's perspective getting smaller? And so we're in some ways like zooming into the character, right? Because when we're working with motion capture, for example, you're typically in Unreal Engine, which is a gaming engine, and there's virtual cameras that are like pointed at the digital asset, the motion capture actor, and that's what's recording the output, right? So we were ending up with just a regular video file to project on the stage, so we needed to think, oh, is that meaning there's a zoom out happening in this virtual camera so we can later look on stage and make it seem bigger, or etc. Otherwise we would just, do we zoom in and then it's his face. So there's just lots of different layers and discoveries that we hadn't even talked about. And then the more we add more people to the room, the more it was like, oh, it could be that, it could be this. Let's play around. Let's see which one we like better, and then make choices, depending on what you like.
And then whether to have someone live in a motion suit acting off stage while this avatar is, acting with the physical actor, or to have it pre-recorded.
Yes.
And at the same time as we're talking about this, the technology is advancing. It's already changed so much from what you can do. It was a few years ago till now. So yeah,
it's surreal.
It's very surreal.
I'm thinking about how our relationship has continued to develop since that moment, and I think it also is something useful to point out about MTF and the ways that we think about longitudinal relationship building. Yeah, there are times where we are engaging with an artist in their process and having sort of like bite-sized engagements to like answer a question, or we have a goal that we want to accomplish, but then there's like all the space in between. And I've found that there are so many developmental spaces where it often just is kind of like a one-off. You've won a grant, you get, $10K, right, and you do that thing at that time, and then like that's it. You're now an alumni of doing that thing. But afterwards, we were like, okay, there's a lot that's been learned here. So like, let's pair you with a dramaturg and let's have a dramaturgical conversation about where the story is now and how it's adapting based off of all the things that you learned. And, we even had like an internal cold read. It was like Dr. Green, your director, and you and me and Brandon just sitting there and talking through the story. And then even when you got other opportunities, like at Culture Hub, for example, you invited me in to like be the, facilitator of the talk back afterwards, where we're talking about, what this piece is. And it's just like such an honor to continue to be a part of this process and to continue to figure out how we can garner resource, which is why your support is so necessary, so that we can keep growing this thing. And I'm curious, like, for us to now reflect on just some of the biggest learnings that have come, not just of the work that you've done with us, in process, but, you had that Culture Hub residency, you continued to explore technology, you kept us in the fold. I'm curious to hear from both of you all, like, what are the biggest things that you feel like you've learned because you started with these experiments about what the piece wants to be or could be, and this is your chance to, like, go to, like, the, like, biggest, wildest dreams and imaginations of what you think this piece could be. And as we keep developing, we may decide, is that still true? But I'm curious to just hear from you. If you were really just daring to dream, like, what have you learned and how does it inform how it shows up for audiences?
I think what I learned is that it's possible. Everything that I envisioned, there was already technology in play to do the thing that I thought was maybe impossible. And it's interesting when I talk to technologists and when I talk to theater makers, the conversation is so different, because it's like, you want to do what on a, like, what, how's that going to work? Like, that's going to be $1 billion like that. And I talk to the people at Culture Hub, the amazing team there, and they're like, oh yeah, we've done this. This is all you do. You just put this on this and you light this thing and then you build this and you project over there. easy. It's like, well, it increases my perception of the possibilities of this thing and how big it can be.
Yes.
Now, financially, that's a whole nother conversation. But I know that the technology is there. I know that there are people in my sphere that have the talent, the vision, the skills, the know-how to be able to do this. We did have a conversation about building an audience.
Yeah.
So something I'm developing, I don't know why I'm laughing at myself.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have that thing where it's like, this is impossible, don't do it, or this is going to be hard. I just do stuff.
Yeah.
Which has gotten me into trouble sometimes. But like this could easily be an animated series, and I believe it should be an animated series. And I've already started, like the outline is done.
Yeah.
I just have to write the script.
Yeah.
And also an immersive art installation that walks you through the history of gatekeepers from ancient gods through our civil rights leaders, all the way through, Black Power movement to Black Lives Matter, which was also funded by Black queer folk. It's a story that I'm sort of like an evangelist for this. Yeah. Like I want people to know the truth of where we come from, and that we have a legacy that we are walking through, and we have shoulders that we stand on.
Yeah.
A lot of Black queer folk especially, all they have is the trauma that they carry from being told that they are going to hell, or that God doesn't love them, or that they need to change, and it's like, no, you have a legacy that goes way far beyond even Christianity.
Yeah. That
is very powerful, and that you are a part of, and that you can walk into, because you also will affect people and change lives, and culture and community.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
So yeah, those are the three aspects of this IP, I guess: the art installation, animated series, and then this finally huge immersive, multi-sensory, Afrofuturist Black queer musical theater experience,
which will be a place like the Sphere or with Rumble Seats. Yes, that's so exciting. As we talked about this like epic vision of like, okay, now you were like, okay, also the audience needs to feel it, like literally, right? And it needs to be huge, physically.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really great, and it's bold, and it's like, that's where entertainment is moving, and I think that's so a big part of what MTF is excited about, and why we talk about like musical storytelling instead of musical theater, right? Because it expands this definition of like, there should be in between, the Eagles and Beyonce at the Sphere should also be these types of experiences, that are epic and, deserve that level of platform.
Yeah, if you think about like the Woman King and Black Panther, if they were merged, turned into a musical, and then also incorporated the technology of the Harry Potter ride.
Yes,
at Disney.
Exactly.
Like that's
we talked
also
about that.
Be a Disney ride.
That's right, a Disney ride.
Yeah, it would be cool if there was a train that took people to, like, not actually moving, but you get on the train and it's taking you through the Darklands, which is the outskirts of this little ethnic enclave in the musical, and that takes you to where you get off and get to your seat, and then the musical takes you on that journey.
Yeah.
There's so many things that can happen.
There are.
$20 million, which someone's going to give us this year.
That's right. And it's really important to end there, because there is still more work to be done. I think there's a lot that's been discovered in this process, and I know that our desire is to continue being in process with you, and it requires resource.
Yeah.
And so if anyone who's watching this is really inspired by this story and wants to see it up and out, this is why developmental space is so crucial. We're witnessing developmental spaces dying, and there's still producing houses that expect that fully produced products will be ready to go when we don't have these developmental spaces to actually get it there. Yeah. And so I'm just grateful that you've been in community with us and like have been on this journey. We've learned so much too. I get so excited about the future of what this piece will be, and it will manifest, and I'm certain of it.
Can I add something?
Please.
Do we have time?
Yes.
Okay. What is your title again?
Director of Artistic Innovation and Emergent Magic.
Which is synergistic because this musical is multisensory. It's giving people a sense of the spiritual technology and what spiritual technology brings into their lives. Meditation, scrying, yoga, whatever, is to touch that spirit world. So I'm trying to, with this immersive technology, give people a sense of their interaction with the spirit world, or the interaction that they can have with the spirit world. So it's very synergistic that you are literally walking in the title that you've manifested.
Yeah. And I think in this role, I feel a little bit like a gatekeeper of sorts.
Yeah, you are a gatekeeper. You're very powerful, Brisa.
Thank you.
I've experienced this at your session.
Thank you. Yeah, the emergent magic part can seem so silly, and actually when I say it out loud to people, I feel like audiences laugh. Because, for whatever reason, but there is something about energy work that theater has the ability to hold. It's a container.
It's a ritual.
It is a ritual. It's a ritual. It's energy work. It's inherently spiritual. Mm-hmm. It's inherently political. Mm-hmm. And I think those are kind of the ethos and values that drive us as an org and us as people and as artists. I just want to say I'm so grateful to be a member of your community, and thank you for seeing me too. The mirror goes both ways, and just grateful to not only know you as someone who's an incredible artist and creative, but also for the spiritual being that you are. Thank you for everything. It means more than you know.
Thank you. I appreciate you. Yeah. And I appreciate you, Brendan.
Yes.
Absolutely. All right. So before we go, can you tell us other things you have going on, how people can stay in touch with you and the Last Gatekeeper?
You can follow me on Instagram. It's Toussaint for you, the number 4 and the letter U. You can follow the Last Gatekeeper at thelastgatekeepermusical.com or just my name, GermonoToussaint.com.
Amazing. Thanks so much.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Grateful for you both. Thanks, Brandon. Thanks, Germono. So excited. Thank you so much for tuning in. Can't wait for you to see the next one.
Hey there, it's Ardite Knox, Co-Executive Director of Musical Theater Factory, specifically Director of Decolonization and Sustainability, and I am here to remind you that if anyone's got us, we got us. In this time of chaos and insanity, invest in the community that is investing in you. Invest in the We Got Us Fund, a new initiative by MTF to make sure that every single member of our community is not getting paid just a living wage, is not getting paid in exposure, is not getting paid in promises, but it's getting paid a thriving wage. Yeah, you heard me, a thriving wage. Help us ensure that everyone in your community, everyone in our community is able to not just live, but thrive. Invest in the We Got Us Fund today.
Hey everyone, I'm Fallon, and thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Fast Forward. I am on the MTF staff as the Coordinator of Connectivity and Systems. And if you want to stay tuned in, please like, subscribe, click the bell so you don't miss future episodes, upcoming releases, and live tapings. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
So I've said this before, I'm an Aquarius sun, Aquarius rising, sorry, almost forgot for a second, and a Leo moon. Germono?
I was going to look on my app because that's the only way I remember.
Okay, well look on your app while Brandon says his.
I'll look at my app.
Mine's fun because it's like inverse with Brisa, which I feel like checks out. And so I'm a Aries sun, Leo rising, Aquarius moon.
There we go.
I
feel like our roles, they hold hands. Our signs hold hands. And don't worry, we cut and edit this, so